What is the Matrix? Control. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're live. We're about to go to break here in a moment. Joe Rogan, my good buddy, visiting here in Austin, is busy beating up the microphone right now. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff in the next hour and 10 minutes. Joe, good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thanks, buddy. What's going on?
Oh,
I like how we just shook hands, even though we've already shook hands and hugged, and we got to shake hands for you guys.
Exactly.
Very important.
Are you saying it's bad we did that?
No, I'm not saying it's bad.
Joe's always, keep it real, Jones.
Keep it real, Alex Jones.
I'm about
Fight the power. One day closer to victory.
You know, Joe just can't believe I've actually really liked this. This is what I'm really like.
Oh, I know. I believe you like this. I've known you for a long time now, man.
You know, I was thinking, we met in 99, so this is actually 10 years.
You remember when I did my DVD that I filmed in Austin, The Belly of the Beast? You and I wore George W. Bush masks and Herbert Walker Bush masks.
We did a little satanic dance to show they were satanic, Skull and Bones.
Yeah, we went running around the grounds of the state capitol building.
And people thought we were nuts because we were. You know what was funny? That was put out on a DVD. I did it, and people found it and said, we found secret video of Alex and Joe, I'm not kidding, of Alex and Joe Rogan doing a satanic ceremony. And we're like, this is a spoof on them, on the Bushes. This is a public DVD sold in stores. But that's how the fake conspiracy theorists that discredit me, that's how they operate.
How many fake conspiracy theorists do you believe are actually employed by the government to make conspiracy theorists look ridiculous? Like when you read about like a guy like William Cooper, like some of the stuff that he said, like about like he thought that Kennedy's driver shot Kennedy.
When it wasn't true.
It was ridiculous, but it's like so crazy that everything else he says, you gotta go, what?
Well, I don't think he was an operative, but what I think is, I mean,
he's just crazy.
I mean, he's better compared to some. I mean, I have documents. I go off 99% of the time. I'm not even speculating.
I'm gonna make an Alex Jones t-shirt, and it's gonna say underneath it, I have documents. Whenever there's anything crazy, I have documents, ladies and gentlemen. I can show you right now.
But let me ask you a question, though.
Okay.
There are a few hundred cases going back into the 60s, especially with COINTELPRO, where they would have activists act crazy, say crazy things.
Of course, right? I mean, it's an effective way to do it. I mean, if you look at like the way arguments progress on message boards, as soon as someone believes anything wacky...
Well, now CENTCOM, now the military admits that they are on the web putting out.
I read that. I read that recently.
You have the documents.
I have the documents.
Well, you do, see?
But it's fascinating how they have, like, directions on how to troll people, how to bait them in arguments, how to respond when you're being,
that's all come out. That's all come out.
It's fascinating.
So we know that hundreds have been caught. We know CENTCOM's hired tens of thousands, and they even have private PR firms that do it. And so, yes, it is there. But more often than not, I'm sad to say, the crazies, it's just schizophrenics and people, too. I mean, there are outright nuts. Stay there. Joe Rogan in studio, ladies and gentlemen.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
So let's go ahead and get into it. During the breaks, we're having even more interesting discussions than we're having on air. You were asking me, what's this Ron Paul clip I've got on the screen over here? And I was saying I played it earlier where suddenly Glenn Beck comes out and goes, the world government's real. The international bankers are dangerous. They're more dangerous than standing armies. Thomas Jefferson quotes, what do we do? They're bankrupting us by design. But now he's doing it on Fox News, so that's going to discredit that message. But you were bringing up Ron Paul and his ideas.
Why do you think that it discredits that message? I mean, if he's saying it on Fox News, maybe they're saying it because they're really worried about it now. Maybe it's gotten to the point where even the people that were, supposedly supporting a corrupt administration are now scared that it's far more corrupt than they had ever believed.
Well, let's hope so.
When I see a guy like Glenn Beck, I think here's a guy who wants attention. He wants to be a smart guy. He wants to be sensible. He wants to prove a point. But I feel like a lot of it's like an act. I feel like he's this American apple pie guy. And now I heard that he's doing some sort of a performance where he has a live show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, he's like an entertainer.
Well, a year ago he said the Army needs to watch and look at and be used against Ron Paul supporters. But you see what I'm saying about his opinions? I mean, if he wants to do a live show, he's an entertainer. That's really, no news person does a live show. They don't even think about that. So what validates his opinions? Maybe he is a guy that was on the side of it because he thought that it was the right thing to do. Or maybe he's mixing in real issues, but then sandwiching it with more government propaganda, which he's doing.
It could be. I mean, it could be that he's, this is the new stance, at Fox News, is they always need an army or they always need an enemy. And so now if the enemy isn't the liberals, maybe if the liberals are in charge, and they've decided to work with them. Now, you know, the idea is that we're supposed to be afraid of the international banks.
But it is the international banks that orchestrated the collapse. I have the documents, as they say.
Right.
And
do you believe that it was orchestrated, or do you believe that it was orchestrated and fell apart because of just human nature and greed and the fact that these people were willing to take these crazy loans that they couldn't pay off and houses that they couldn't afford, and that bankers knew that these houses were just never going to just continue to appreciate? They were completely overinflated. You think it's a little bit of both, maybe?
It is a little bit of both, because in the lending changes they made in the mid and late 90s, that allowed sub-brokerage in banks to run scams, and that did happen. But the large central banks, we have their own policy papers, and when I went and infiltrated Bilderberg 3 years ago, and it's in my film Endgame out for a year and a half, I said they're going to pop the subprime mortgage, create an international banking crisis, and then propose a world bank that you'll pay carbon taxes to, and that was now in Newsweek 2 weeks ago.
If that happens, what happens to all the money in America? What's the thought behind that? Like, everybody who has $1 million all of a sudden has a zero, and we all start at scratch? And then
the elite have transferred the assets while they still had value into tangible, hard resources
like
and infrastructure.
Gold and oil and stuff like that. Now, so is that the thought behind it? That they're just going to cancel out all the money? That they're going to completely implode the dollar?
What they're going to do is have a world banking system that's already there but go public that will set the currency values and that will control the major Western governments. So you'll already have a world currency, but you'll still have your local unit. Kind of like Sports Illustrated's in 15 different regions or whatever, but it's still Sports Illustrated. So you'll still have a dollar, you'll still have a peso, you'll still have a pound, you'll still have a euro, but it's all going to be devalued simultaneously.
Now, okay, here's the question. Is there a way to stop anything like, if this is all real, if this is really what's going to happen, is there a way to stop it, or at this point in time, should it be stopped? I mean, what do you think should happen?
Oh, it's probably going to fail. Even the bankers are saying in their own policy reports that are public that this is going to be a hard sell. So we're going into one hell of a fight, because these guys won't give us quarter. I mean, they're not going to stop.
Well, why? So the bankers are saying that they're not going to be able to pull it off.
They're saying it's very hard for them. But now, since they built the crisis, and they're saying they have to do it or it will all fall apart.
Is it possible to because of this crisis, is it possible that they could re-engineer to bring it back to life? Or is it just, I don't understand enough about the way the financial system works. No, but see, that's what's so
psycho about these globalists is they've created a crisis. We're only going to the next Ponzi scheme will save it, which then gives them all the power. So they say to the country, you better go with us or it's over. And in a way, it's really true. We'll be right back in 70 seconds with Joe Rogan. Yeah, Joe, this is streaming out on prisonplanet.tv. Then it gets ripped all over the four corners of the web, and it's also been simulcasting on the radio.
You got a serious setup here, sir.
That's pretty good. Thank you for liking it, though.
Pretty sporty. Kubrick films playing in the background. It's kind of creepy.
Well, the real world is creepy, as you know.
The real world is creepy.
It's very, very, very creepy. Let's get into, first off, before we get into Ron Paul, what's some of the latest stuff you're working on? I mean, you're the top host, one of the founding hosts. Well, I know that when people ever talk about the host, they talk about you with Ultimate Fighting, becoming an international super craze, just getting bigger and bigger. You've done all these big TV shows. You just did another big TV show. You're doing the comedian stuff. Tell us what Joe Rogan's up to these days.
Well, primarily my job is always, I'm a stand-up comic. That's really what I do. Everything else, I kind of do for money. The UFC is, my big gig, and that's just an awesome job. I just love doing that. Love doing commentary. I'm a huge fan of the sport. And then I do little things on the side sometimes. Like, I just did this thing for CBS called Game Show in My Head. It's like a hidden camera comedy game show. We did 8 of them, and they're airing all throughout January. It's actually pretty funny. It's a hidden camera comedy game show where they have to do these crazy things. They have a earpiece in, and I'm talking to them, and there's hidden cameras everywhere. So, but I think we did 8 of those, so I think it's done at the end of this month.
But I remember you saying that about Fear Factor. You go, I did this. I don't even really want to do it. I'm just doing a lot of things. I don't think this is going to go.
That's what I thought. When I was first doing it, I was like, this thing's so stupid. How is this going to last? It lasted for 6 years, shows like that are, if you have a skill, if you're a good host, if you know how to host those shows, they're fun to do. They're easy.
Well, you did Mad TV, too?
I didn't. I just did a guest appearance on Mad TV.
But then also News Radio?
Yeah, News Radio.
What was your favorite? What was your favorite show you've ever done?
News Radio was the most fun creatively, because it was a comedy. It was really fun to do, and it was really interesting.
It was real acting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know,
you're playing yourself.
It's not that hard. It's
being yourself, yeah.
Especially sitcom acting, you know, it's really easy. But it was a really unique opportunity to work with a bunch of really talented people like Phil Hartman and Dave Foley and Andy Dick, and all the people that were on that show were just really talented. You know, Maura Tierney, and it's because of that, you know, I got to really appreciate like the craft of creating like a good television show. So it makes it hard to do another one afterwards. That's why, in a sense, that Fear Factor was a good thing to do, because it was way better to do that than a crappy sitcom. It's like, let's just do this goofy game show, you know, that's not really supposed to be a comedy. What was that noise?
It never happens unless we have a big guest in studio. We have multiple backup lines. Our connection to the satellite just cut out, but we have backups to satellite.
You have backups to satellite? So the connection cut out, and you think that it's the government that's doing this?
No, it only happens if I have Ron Paul or Jesse Ventura in studio. It only happens if Charlie Sheen's on. We probably have one of those guests every month, and it only happens when a big guest is on generally.
Well, I'm far less threatening than any of those gentlemen.